Welcome to the Real Estate Show here at 580 KIDO, featuring Chris Lofthus of the Chris Lofthus Group at Keller Williams Realty Boise. Chris, good to have you with us. As always, you are where the action is, featuring local real estate.
Yeah, we try to be out there and kind of put ourselves in harm's way, I guess, if you want to put it that way, in general. But we're always trying to be out there just discussing what's going on with the market and what's really happening in Boise.
Well, let's talk about the market overview. Certainly, it's getting a lot of attention, but for people here in the Treasure Valley and across the country that monitor this show to find out what's going on in this market, what's the market overview, sir?
Kevin, this week we've had some awesome news. Last week we got some incredible news, some fantastic information coming out of some national publications that we discussed last week on the show. Just, number 2 best place to raise a family, one of the fastest cities for recovery for real estate. They discussed about, certain things, just in general about the positive momentum that we have going on around here. When you look at just the inventory level numbers, what percentage of that is new construction and all the new stuff that's coming on around here, you kind of get that vibe and that feel of what's truly going on around Boise.
And when you take a look at this, is it amazing how the market has changed year to year?
Yeah, being from California and being from San Diego, and I grew up there, and it's one of the most volatile real estate markets. I just don't think people in general in Idaho, Boise area, Coeur d'Alene, whatever, in Idaho, we're never used to those big, heavy swings, and it happened so fast, and it was just such a dagger to Ada County, Canyon County especially, what happened. I don't think people were used to it. And now what we're seeing is that we're so low, it got hurt so bad, and you have a lot of naysayers. And I was just discussing this earlier, before we came on the air about this. I talked to a client yesterday that's discussing, kind of like the naysayer attitude out there going, oh, God, this is just a bubble. This is, all this is false, and, the banks are going to dump a bunch of foreclosures on us, and we're going to crash again. And the fact of the matter is it's completely false. There's no true, logic behind that. When you look at that attitude towards what's going on, and you watch, we discuss it all the time, you watch what's going on with the new construction commercial-wise and the businesses that are moving here, Ruth Chris Steakhouse, you look at all the stuff on Eagle Road, they're not stopping. And so they know what's going to happen. And, you and I were just discussing this California issue of the possibility of 14% state income tax. And if that happens, as much as Idahoans that are from here don't like it, the fact of the matter is that's going to put a big, upwards push on value around here because those people are coming.
And speaking of coming, we take a look at some of the listings last week. We've got 2,207 active listings this week, 2,236 active new, 386. How competitive is it when we're talking about getting the home of your dreams?
Well, it is, and you can see the number when you look at active new about 3-4 weeks ago was at 23.5%. Last week at 18%. I think it's down to 15%. So what you're seeing is the buyers that are coming in, they're buying new houses. And, the guest we're having on today, Burton, Friesz Remodeling, and I kind of brought Burton on. Burton's been on a couple of times, and I want to talk a little bit about what Burton does and what he can do for people that have resale houses, because, the fact of the matter is resale homes have not really had any competition with new construction over the last 2 or 3 years because it's been almost non-existent. And so, when you talk about Burton and what he can do, when you put your house in the market and it's a resale home, whether you bought it in 2004, 2005, whatever, and you're going to put the house in the market, you need to realize that your competition is new construction.
And that is something we'll get into in the next segment of this program, Chris, when we're talking about how you can compete with the new construction. Let's talk a little bit about you. We were watching TV Sunday night, and there you were on Channel 7 talking about the national attention that the Treasure Valley is getting. Obviously, that's a plus, but you've been talking about this for quite some time.
Yeah, Justin Corr called me on Sunday morning, and we did a little bit over just an interview over the telephone just about what was going on, and it was great. It was kind of funny that the timing that Justin had with that whole with that phone call is the previous day. I had gotten phone calls from 2 or 3 of my friends that live out of state, and they're like, man, you guys are all over the radar. Boise is just Boise, 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 Boise. Everywhere you look, on all these lists, you see Boise is up there. We talked about CoreLogic ranked Boise as the second most improved real estate market in the nation, and if people don't look at that and go, holy cow, that's just an incredible number. Realtor.com ranked Boise as in the top 10 turnaround towns. And so when you're getting that type of publicity and what Justin was talking about on Sunday Night News, that's such fantastic news, and it gives just such a great positive push for Boise and what's going on around here, and that's what's making people want to move here, and that's what's changing the whole value of homes in Ada County and Canyon County.
When you take a look at what you've talked about, Chris, the Realtor.com ranking Boise is one of the in the top 10 turnaround towns in the country. And usually when you're talking about that, we have much bigger towns that we're competing against.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And I was just explaining this to Mark Boland, the general sales manager here at KIDO. We were discussing that he's moved around a lot, but you got to realize we are in competition. So when you look at these numbers, just like my family moved in here, and when you do, people just don't go, hey, we're moving to Boise, Idaho. They don't go, hey, we're moving to Coeur d'Alene. What they're doing is they're looking, they come, they visit, and we watch this happen when we deal with buyers. They come, they look, they see what they can afford, they see what they like the area, and with all the amenities that Boise has to offer, and when you're trying to compare it to a Spokane, you say Boulder, Colorado, Santa Fe, New Mexico, whatever, these other places, Boise has so much more to offer. And like we were just talking about Mark when we did the Viewpoint piece with Mark, and he discussed the fact that Boise is like a mini Austin. And if you looked at what happened with Austin, and it's just such an incredible dynamic place now, and Mark said, he was just got back from visiting there. He said, it's happening here in Boise. It's going to happen. It's going to be just like that.
Chris, if people would like to get a hold of you and they want to take a look at moving up to a bigger home, again, you deal with great properties, which we'll get into, what can they do?
They can call me personally, obviously, anytime they want on my cell phone, which is 514-5003. Or our office number is 350-6228, or you can always email me or our executive assistant, Annette, or anyone on our team at contact us at CLG, Chris Lofthus Group, CLGeagle.com.
Now, Chris, you have a lot of insight when you talk to these folks buying these homes, moving into the area. What's the pulse of what you get when you talk to these people about they're making a commitment to the Treasure Valley like you did?
Well, a lot of it, like we talked about, and I always say amenities, which probably isn't the right word when you talk about the green belt and the river and just the great things that are around here, skiing, McCall, everything else. The biggest thing was kind of funny when you look at flow and you look at what's going on. And last week, Tim Bungard, the CEO of Pioneer Title, he discussed the fact that of all the transactions in the last 12 months that have been closed. Here in the Treasure Valley, 54% of those, I think it was 54%, were Eagle and Meridian alone. And so you look at that, and and if we really looked at those numbers, I would probably say it would really lean heavily on Meridian, just due to the fact that it's so central. And we discussed the fact, and the reason Meridian is doing so well is all of these people that were out in Canyon County before, when we talked about price and value and what you get for your money. People couldn't afford to live in Meridian. People couldn't afford to live in East Boise. And just the numbers weren't there. But now people are seeing the fact that if they are qualified to buy, they can buy the $200,000-$300,000 house in Meridian, closer to work, And so it's location, the things that are just going on around just in that little area, that corridor. I kind of call it the Eagle Meridian corridor, and the activity is crazy.
You bring up a good point when we're talking about businesses coming. We've got Big Owls coming in. We've got Dave and Buster's coming in. Ruth's Chris. Man, I can't wait for that.
Oh, yeah, of course. I was going to leave because we didn't have one.
I'm with you on that. But for folks that aren't familiar with this, and you say these folks just don't throw a dart on a map, they do a lot of market research to determine that this is the place where the growth is going to be.
Well, they do, and it's kind of funny because I come from, I've never been a corporate person. I've always been self-employed my entire life, but everyone in my family is my brother, sister, brother-in-law. Everybody works for corporate America, and the fact of the matter is, when you look at these large corporations like the Costco's, like they do run algorithms. And I was Googling, which is amazing, the stuff you can find on Google. But we're Googling it, and they follow the trend of money. They follow the trend of where people are moving, where people are going to buy it, and their number one thing is families. You look at Big Owls. They know, look where it sits right in the middle of Meridian.
Right.
And so, what their business model is and what they have to offer, excuse me, as a company, in general is families. So, and you look at that, and they couldn't have put it in a better spot. They put it in the corner, I think, of Ustick and Eagle Road, and the population of families around there. So they knew, and you just don't go throw a 8,000 square foot building up overnight, or I think it's 60,000 square feet. I don't even know how big it is, but
right.
They plan those things out. So they're planning in advance, and they know that there's money that people are going to utilize them.
Well, you have that, Chris, and you have Rosars coming in with that big facility and centrally located. So for people that are considering, buying a home or maybe getting a second home here in Idaho, I mean, you deal with people across the country. How's that playing out?
Well, it is, too. And just yesterday, with Jerry Kelly's one of our client specialists, she was out with a client of mine, and they, I would call them, I guess, baby boomers, and they are. We're selling a lot of second homes. We're selling a lot of third homes for that person. But, people want a place. A lot of these people are living in Scottsdale, maybe in the wintertime or Palm Springs. But the fact of the matter is, we have such an array of buyers around here, an array of people that live here, and it's funny. You see a family living, here next door. You got a baby boomer that's just here, 8 months out of the year.
Chris Lofthus with us here. You're listening to the Real Estate Show featuring Chris Lofthus of the Chris Lofthus Group at Keller Williams Realty in Boise at 580 KIDO.